All right, hello there. I wanted to cover, these aren't all of them. There's quite a few more I could probably cover, but that's going to be another video. But these are going to be 10 common excuses for misunderstanding the order of operations in mathematics. Also, this could be referred to as the 10 non-commandments. And I just threw that in there. People seem to repeat these same mistakes over and over and over. I see a lot of answers on Facebook that are incorrect, and they pretty much follow a same pattern. All right, so first of all, I want to hit PEMDAS, which is a common acronym used in North America to describe order of operations. And a lot of people, unfortunately, believe that PEMDAS means you do each letter one at a time. A lot of people don't understand that multiplication and division have equal precedence, and addition and subtraction have equal precedence. They memorize the order of these 6 letters, and they think it's like a 6-step checklist. It is not a 6-step checklist. I will have people insist all the time, well, I know PEMDAS, and I know that multiplication always comes before division because they see an M before the D. Well, guess what, folks? A lot of people also memorize an acronym called PEDMAS. PEDMAS is PEDMAS, or and PEMDAS, they're the same thing because it doesn't matter what order you write M and D. You could have written it PEMDSA, SA at the end, but of course that's a lot harder to say. Saying PEMDSA is a lot harder to say than PEMDAS. But you could have said it that way because it doesn't matter. Addition and subtraction have equal precedence. All right, we're going to move on because this could go on all day. All right, my calculator gave me that answer. And they, of course, they don't mention that it was an immediate execution mode. They don't mention that they used a standard mode calculator on their computer, or they don't mention they used their dollar store calculator that isn't capable of entering the entire expression in and giving you the correct answer. There are different input methods. I'm going to cover it really quickly right here. All right, so here's some proof to you guys that multiplication and division, first of all, have equal precedence. On your Windows computer, the standard mode calculator works in what's called immediate execution mode. I can type 100 divided by 5 and then hit the multiplication sign, and you can see it's already solved the 100 divided by 5 and giving you 20. And then I hit the multiplication sign, and then I'm hitting 20 again, multiplying by 20, gives me an answer of 400. 20 times 20 is 400. Multiplication and division, you can just solve them left to right. But let me show you this. I can go to scientific mode. 100 divided by 5 times. And notice what it did here. 100 divided by 5. Again, 20. And then I'm multiplying by 20. I get 400. Same answer. But I'm going to show you that you can get different answers when the precedence, the level of precedence is different. Multiplication and division have equal precedence. So you get the same answer between these two modes of calculators. But let me show you something else. All right, we're gonna look at the problem 10 plus 3 times 2, all right? Standard mode. This is called immediate execution mode, meaning that it's executing each operation as you enter it. So even though I'm adding addition first, it's going to do that addition first. And a lot of people don't understand that when they're using their cheap dollar store calculator. You have to be aware of the order of operations on those types of calculators. Let me show you 10 plus 3. Now I'm going to hit the multiplication sign. Look what it did. It added 10 plus 3 already, which that's just because of the input method of the calculator. It gives you 26. Now that's not the right answer. 10 plus 3 times 2. Multiplication always comes first. 3 times 2 is 6. 10 plus 6 is 16. You're going to get the wrong answer. When you have a calculator like this that has this type of input method, you have to do the multiplication yourself first. You need to, or if you have parentheses available on your calculator, you would need to use those. It doesn't mean you're correct. A lot of people will reinforce an incorrect answer and say, well, my little dollar store calculator told me the answer is 26. Well, that's because you entered it wrong. It's because of the type of calculator. There are different input methods. There's immediate execution mode and there's expression mode. All right, you'd have to enter that 3 times 2 equals 6 plus 10 and then get 16. Now, as soon as I go to scientific mode, watch this. 10 plus 3 times. Look what it did. Look what it did. This is different. It has 10 plus 3 and then the multiplication sign because this calculator works in expression mode. You can enter expressions with different levels of precedence. And when I mean levels of precedence, I mean multiplication has precedence over addition. It knows as soon as I press that multiplication sign that, hey, I need to be aware that I'm going to have to do that multiplication before I do the addition. So when I hit the 2 and then hit the equals, look what it did. It entered the entire expression 10 plus 3 times 2 equals 16. That is the correct answer. And just to show you again, in case you weren't looking, if I go back to standard mode and I go 10 plus 3 and hit times, as soon as I hit the multiplication sign, it's already added the 10 plus 3 because this type of a calculator mode does not keep track of an entire expression. It's assuming you're just adding numbers, multiplying numbers, or it also assumes that you remember the order of operations. And you might not. And a lot of people apparently don't because I've had hundreds of people try to reinforce an incorrect answer because they do not understand how their calculator is supposed to work. So there you go. All right, the next one here. I always multiply before dividing. And again, this goes back to the misunderstanding of PEMDAS. A lot of people memorize the order of 6 letters and they stopped understanding anything beyond that. They're ignoring the fact that multiplication and division share equal precedence. It could be M and D or D and M. As a matter of fact, in the UK and a lot of other countries, they use an acronym called BODMAS, BODMAS, which is brackets, orders, division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. And again, BODMAS and PEMDAS are the same thing. They just write the D before the M. It makes no difference because they have equal precedence. Division is just multiplying by a reciprocal. All right, and then this one here. This one here is a really tired one. That's how my teacher taught me. Or a lot of times it's like, well, I learned the old school way, and they'll say, well, I learned it that way back in the 3rd grade. And a lot of people say, well, I didn't learn PEMDAS. I learned to solve left to right. I learned simple math. These are all excuses. And there's a lot of people that will just say, you're supposed to go left to right no matter what. They'll say things like, well, I read a sentence left to right, so I do my math left to right. And that's not true. It's only true within the same level of precedence. That's why you can use that type of a calculator. You can use an immediate execution mode calculator to add up a whole bunch of numbers or to multiply a whole bunch of numbers together only if you're just adding or if you're just multiplying, because you can go left to right as long as you're in the same level of precedence. And when I mean that, I mean addition and subtraction have the same precedence, multiplication and division have the same precedence. That's what we're talking about, okay? Just remember, multiplication and division, they're walking along together, but they have to recognize the parentheses. Parentheses are grouping symbols. Parentheses tell us to solve everything inside of them using the order of operations. It gives them priority. Remember that. Same thing, addition and subtraction. They're walking along together, equal precedence. But multiplication is literally defined. Look in your dictionary. It's literally defined as repeated addition. Multiplication has always had precedence over addition and subtraction, even without parentheses. Parentheses aren't needed. Remember that. All right. And then people will say things like, well, PEMDAS is not a law. It's not a rule. It's not a law of math. It's not a fundamental law. It's just a suggestion. All right. The order of operations is as a convention, but it's an agreed upon convention that's been agreed on for hundreds of years, basically. So math teachers everywhere are quietly weeping when they hear this one. And then this one here, yeah, I love this one too. Everyone on Facebook got the same answer I did. I will see this all the time. It's like I guess Facebook made me smart. I leave a wrong answer, and 30 other people who are just as bad at mathematics left the same answer, so I must be right. And like I tell people all the time, there is no herd immunity in mathematics, okay? Just because you want a herd with a bunch of people who are just as bad at mathematics as you are does not make you correct. Social proof is not mathematical proof. Just keep that in mind. And then this one here I see all the time too. The problem's written wrong. I'll hear things like, "Well, if you're supposed to multiply first, they should have written the multiplication first, going left to right." And that's just kind of a deflection. When people, when their answer disagrees with the wrong answer, they don't understand. They'll just say, "Oh, it's just written wrong." Okay, that's another excuse. The other one here is like real math doesn't work like that. I want to see you. I work in construction, or I do this, or I do that, and I add numbers up all the time, or I balance my. I'd like to see somebody balance their checkbook using PEMDAS. And again, this is just, this again, it's deflection. All right. Yeah. Do you use the order of operations when you're doing your balance in your checkbook? Pretty doubtful because you're just adding and subtracting numbers. Addition and subtraction have equal precedence. So, a lot of times people will throw that in there, or even giving change back at a, see people say, well, no wonder nobody can give change back. Well, again, that you're talking about addition and subtraction for the most part. You're not talking about mixing operations. You're not talking about mixing multiplication. This is where people really lose it here. Real math does work like that. There's centuries of agreement. Again, this is just pulling from the book of excuses. And then this one here, this is a classic one too. Well, it depends on how you look at it. The answer could be 5 if you were old school, and it could be 10 if you're doing the new math. Okay, math is not abstract art. This is one that really exposes the lack of knowledge people have. Okay, mathematics is not interpretive dance, okay? There are correct answers in mathematics. It's not like creative writing where you're going to write a novel and it could be about whatever you want it to be. This is not what mathematics is about. And unfortunately, a lot of people think that mathematics answers are based on opinions, they're based on feelings, they're based on how many other people on Facebook got the same wrong answer as you did. No, that's just another excuse. All right, so hopefully that's been helpful. And if so, please consider liking, sharing, subscribing. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.